Okay, so our group, me, Nicole, and Patrick, we decided to visit 4 museums and take a look how they just exposit their objects and just find out which one is more interesting and which one is not that interesting, and is it worth to go or not worth to go. Just in case if you want to visit, we can give you some advices now. So we visited 4 museums. The first one was Shongdian Museum of Formosan Aborigines. It's just across the National Palace Museum, and so it's very easy to find it and to get there. The other one was Wulaya Tile Museum in New Taipei City. Also, Ketagalan Culture Center in Xinbeitou. Yeah, it's me too.
And let's turn this. Can we turn this light off?
It's weird. No, it's I turned one off.
Yeah. And how about that back?
And it's all of them.
And how about that light?
Is there lights back there?
Yeah, there is lights back here.
Yeah. Try that one.
No.
Try the next one.
No, it's not working.
Third one.
It only happens this one, and this one's way too bright.
Yeah. This is good.
Yeah.
This darkness is fine.
This is good, yeah.
Okay.
Now we're adjusting.
Okay, and the 4th museum was the Shisanhang Museum of Archaeology. So let's start.
Hong. Hey, you went there?
He went there.
Oh.
Yeah, Patrick went there, so he's going to talk more
I have
later.
lots of stories about that place.
Okay, so we can discuss the stories. So the first museum is the Shongdian Museum of Formosan Aborigines. And this museum was opened less than years ago, in 1994, and as an ethnology museum. And the main aim of this museum is to preserve indigenous culture and promote mutual understanding between different ethnic groups in Taiwan. And also, it's very interesting that it's the first private museum dedicated to Taiwan's indigenous people. Well, we didn't know this fact, so it was kind of fascinating to find it out. This is the picture of the museum, and you can see that it looks a bit exotic.
Is it in Germany? I see Sleeping Beauty's castle.
It's a
I put this picture on purpose because it's really contradictory. You can see like Aborigines museum and really modern castle, like kindergarten. So it's really ridiculous. But I don't know when was the castle built, but
Later.
yeah, it was built later. So I saw some pictures before. When there was only one building, like Aborigines Museum, so it looked so good, and now it's really weird. But yeah, the shape of the museum is really original, and it's really interesting. And there's also the how do you call it? Pillar. Yeah, with
The totemic pillar.
yeah, totemic pillar with different Aborigines cravings. Okay, so museum, there are 4 floors in the museum, and I will briefly introduce each floor and just discuss what's happening there, what you can find there, and so let's start from the first floor, and of course it's when you come there you find an introduction of Aborigines people, indigenous people of Taiwan, and yeah, and they present as the same as Seneca's museum. They present only 9 tribes, so not 14. And you can find very interesting images of Taiwanese indigenous peoples dressed in traditional costumes, and it's really nice. You can see the picture up on the right. And there's also a big map of Taiwan, and you can push buttons. There's like a map of the names of Aborigines tribes, and you can touch the name, and you can see where is the location of that tribe on the big map of Taiwan. It's this in the middle. You can see it here. So it looks really cool and interesting. And you also can watch videos about the one we saw in the class about the origins of Aborigines, Austronesian people. And also about current life of indigenous people. Those are a few minutes long and really interesting to watch. And you also can find like contemporary art, like pictures of different people of different tribes. So the first floor is really interesting, and also you can find the fishing boat of Yanni, which we saw in Academia Sinica Museum, but this one is bigger comparing with the one, and also the Taiwan slate sculpture. And really interesting was the World Indigenous Music Appreciation section, where it's like collection of different Aborigines music, and you can put the CD in and listen to the music. And there are many varieties of music, and not only Taiwan's indigenous peoples, but also from different parts of the world. And you just can hear Hungarian gypsies singing or something like that. It's really interesting. You can spend there a long time. So this is the first floor, and the second floor it's mainly about. It's orientated mainly on indigenous lifestyles and everyday life, and implements and tools and weapons. So what we can find here is the ancestral posts of the Tao Yami tribe. These
Dao.
Tao, yeah.
Dao means people.
Yeah. So also the dwelling of the Tao people. This Tao people. This picture you can see it. Well, we saw some houses of indigenous people in Academia Sinica Museum. So this museum has similar objects, but more and more interesting. And also Tsao Man's Gathering House, the one up at the bottom, at the top. And also very interesting was the life-size Taiwan slate house, and which you can see here.
It's actually quite small.
Yeah,
it's like a child's house.
It's quite small. And this is the scheme, like how it's composed, the house. So
It is, the Taiwan dwelling is life-size. You need to bend to go in.
And we were thinking whether it's really like the highest as it is in originally,
That's
or
right.
it's just a model. But we found out that it's the real, and it's really interesting how they live in such a small houses.
But you
all family
can
together.
step down in it, and actually it's quite deep because it has in-house burial. So they keep
Okay.
excavating for burial, and so they plan how deep it's going in terms of how many burials they can put up in there, in the floor.
Yeah, so that's
And then some of the burials become benches, built up slate things.
We could talk about the arrangement, the sleeping arrangement.
Oh, yeah.
About that?
Oh yeah, I don't remember much about it, but
Yeah,
okay,
come on.
come on.
Well, what was interesting about the slate house is that she was mentioning, she's like, oh, they sleep in such small quarters. Because which room do you think is the sleeping quarter? Like this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. This is actually the granary. So this is where they keep like the millet and stuff.
Yeah.
And so this is actually food storage. This is where the ancestors sleep. This is actually a pigsty, aka the bathroom as well. And then this is guest sleeping, and these are where they actually sleep. So I think the children sleep closest to the bathroom. All the ancestors, like the elders, sleep farther away. So that was kind of interesting.
And the other mosaic part?
This is the living center. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
so those are the stone slab slate that can be removed
Yeah.
on the floor. The whole floor is in these slabs of slate for burials.
Yeah. Thank you for this work.
Yeah, so in the second floor we can find different models of
So what about the
houses.
Yami structure? That's a very nice photograph. What does that mean?
The straw house.
The Orchid Island. It's a subterranean. You see that one? That's to make it typhoon proof.
You didn't know it.
Yeah, they didn't really say that on the description.
Okay, and what is more interesting that I haven't seen like musical instrument before in any museum, so it was really interesting to find out about the nose flute, how they are playing the flute with their nose. It's still very. I still have a question how they are doing that, but
and the other museum has a single nose flute.
yeah, there's also a single nose flute, so it's very interesting, and also musical bow and Jew's harp. This one is Jew's harp. We were thinking why they called it Jew's harp, but because Chinese name is different from the English translation. Yeah.
No, in Chinese it's called mouth harp.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
And why is it called a Jew's harp?
Yeah, we had this question, but we don't know.
That is the English name because when the Jews fled from Jerusalem, they were on the road. They were refugees in many countries around Europe, so they had to pack everything portable. And so their music was also portable. So
What came first, the Jew's harp or the Aboriginal instrument? Chicken and egg.
no, it's only the name given, has nothing to do with what I described.
Okay.
But then that became the name applied to worldwide ethnomusicology, the name given to such an instrument in English.
Yeah, and you can not only see those instruments but also hear them.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Like you see and hear, because it's hard to imagine how they sound when you just see the instrument itself. So I was excited about musical instruments in this museum a lot. You also can find pottery, wickerwork, carvings and decorations, and also fishing and hunting implements and other agriculture implements, like what you usually find in each Aboriginal museum. These are the main parts comparing with others. The third floor was also very interesting, and we got a chance to see more objects of clothing of Aborigines people, and we saw like traditional costumes. It was also interesting to see mourning garments, because we didn't see those in Academia Sinica Museum, so it was something new for us. And actually they don't look like mourning garments because they are also colorful, so you wouldn't say that they're for that reason. Also textiles, ornaments, like this leg are used for ornament for legs, and embroidery and tattooing. Yeah, and I found out really interesting part about tattooing, because I actually didn't know how they are making all those tattoos. So we got a bit more information about it, and we could see all the instruments they have to make the tattoos. And it's very interesting that I found it very interesting. I don't know, maybe some of you already know it, that usually they did the tattoos during the winter to minimize the risk of infection and inflammation. And it was also interesting that it was undertaken in a well-ventilated and well-lit place, such as beneath house eaves or in a granary. I didn't know this fact. And they also used to perform a ceremony before tattooing a person, and like ash and oil or leaf juices were used as ink. And and the tattooing process was repeated 1 to 3 times until the design was completed. And was also interesting that the payment for the person who did the tattoo was usually a piece of cloth, bottle of alcohol, or some metal tool. So I just found these facts quite interesting, and I just wanted to share with others.
So who did the tattooing?
Just a tattoo master.
Yeah, the shaman. Because it had to work out as your predicted fortune in life. So the facial tattoo was unique to the individual. It's coming of age that was foretelling life for that person.
But what's interesting is that face tattooing was also in the museum that I'm going to subscribe later, but they also have pictures of arm and chest tattoos, but they didn't really say what tribe it came from. They were like long stripes all along the arms that would go up all the way across the shoulders and the chest. Yeah,
Or
not
hands.
sleeves because it was just a line.
And also hand tattoos.
Yeah,
They also had
hand
hand
tattoos.
tattoos.
That's,
That was weaving though. That was weaving.
that's coming from the Taiwan.
The Taiwan. Oh.
Yeah. The
'Cause
Thai uses the facial tattoo.
one problem is that some of them weren't specified. They were all tools from Aboriginals. Some of them, when you went to look for what tribe it came from, it'll be like unknown.
Yeah.
It was a little bit strange.
Okay, and there is also one floor in the basement which is mainly dedicated for beliefs and rituals of indigenous people of Taiwan. So it represents traditional Aborigines beliefs and different sacrificial objects, like wooden boxes used for divination, or some spears and knives. It also explains the head hunting custom, and what is more, there is also an auditorium and exhibition center. So the moment when we were there, there was a Saisha exhibition for Saisha people. It's quite a big exhibition. Well, this picture is taken from the exhibition. Those two are related with.
Did I take a picture in the house?
Yeah, there's.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's life-sized. That's what I thought was cool.
And in auditorium, you can watch a movie. They show the movie every time to time. There are particular hours when you can come and watch a movie. But at that time when we were there,
There wasn't enough people, so I don't think they were running the movies on the schedule.
Oh, you can ask.
Oh,
It was dead. There wasn't even a guard. That's why we took all these pictures. You're not allowed to take pictures in this museum. Yeah, we're not allowed to take any pictures. The guard yelled at us in the auditorium. But then there was nobody guarding the other floor, so they're like, whoop, okay, pictures, because we knew this project.
yes.
We didn't use flash. We didn't use flash, but they were like no cameras at all.
Your pictures are very good.
Yeah, we took it secretly, so please don't tell anyone.
The other museum
Because
was even
we-
more secret.
Yeah,
So for the tools for tattoo, they're not unknown, but they're not confirmed. They don't have confirmation in terms of their research. They cannot confirm their origin.
but it was not only with the instruments for tattooing. It was also with other
random, like,
subjects,
baskets,
objects, and it was.
Spears.
Yeah.
So there is a Mr. Lin who, in the 50s and 60s, made his collection. And what he was doing is collecting what was ever beautiful or interesting and unique. And then he had this large house. He took me to his house in Yamingshan in the 80s, I guess, and full of stuff. And he said, I have to think of a way to display and to show this. So he built a museum for his personal collection. All of that he collected himself.
Yeah,
And he is not an ethnologist, so he just wanted to conserve and to collect those things and have a museum for them. That's why he did it.
Yeah, so I think that from all the museums I saw, it was one of the most interesting museums about the indigenous people in Taiwan. And just comparing with Academia Sinica Museum, it differs because in Academia Sinica we saw like different tribes separately, like one tribe, another tribe, and there everything was kind of mixed. So at the beginning we thought, oh, it's so confusing because you don't get the impression how each tribe looked like. But still, I found it really, really interesting and entertaining. Especially, like musical part was really interesting because you can get all those records and listen to the music and watch videos and just do many other things. Yeah. Nicole? Okay, so Nicole is going to continue about other museums we visited.
Alright, so we also went to the Wulai, and we went to the Taiwan Museum, which has been around for a while, but has been a free admission since January 1st, 2010. Unlike the museum she just went to, which is a $100 student fee, I think $150 for adults.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's free, You just walk in and browse. It was really interesting because it's located in Wulai, so you have to take a bus, usually from Xingdian MRT, and you would get there about half an hour, depending on traffic. It lists the tribes with they list the population of the tribes. I guess they're trying to be current because these are easily replaced. But for example, I forgot which one, but one of them here was a population of 1. I remember that. I don't know who it was. It's on my camera. It's somewhere, but it was really funny because one of these guys was population of 1, and I guess they didn't update the number. But as you can see, the Ataya is the most population for the tribe of North Taiwan. It takes up actually this whole area. They believe that their people came from a rock, that a rock split, and the man and woman came out, and those are the origins of the Ataya tribe, or in Chinese, Taiyazhu. It goes into a brief description of all the tribes as you can see here on the island, but it also goes into the fact that they migrated. So they started off more around here in Nantou, and each stone represents a group or a split in the tribe. As it went further up and migrated, this one's Wulai, I believe. Yeah. They had a lot of model houses, which is really interesting because they showed wooden and bamboo buildings, which were more I think gathering areas. Then they showed the slate houses. And then one of the tribes, I think further south in Ataya, actually has their houses built on stilts, which was really interesting. These houses are all model size, so they've kept in a little box. It's really cool. And then they go on to farming and hunting and methods and tools. So they show you ways to trap your animals. This is a dying squirrel. They actually have a lot of methods, and if you press on the button, they show you the trap in this little model area where they're all small trees and animals, and they'll highlight how the trap looks like. It was kind of funny, but kind of gross. These are the knives that they had. Then they show you methods for farming. For example, these are the tools and how they would prepare the land for farming. This is them preparing today's millet, so they also had eating, drinking, food in daily life. And this is their fishing traps. And then they had more hunting materials. They did have a small display of head hunting. This is not real, I think. And they also had a really interesting thing that talked about the tattoos. And these are all women, and they all have weaving tattoos. They get them as a coming of age. And it's if they don't have the tattoo, they can't cross the rainbow bridge to meet their ancestors in the afterlife. So it is something that they need to do. They usually have it on the forehead and a V that runs down and over the lips across the cheek. Actually right here, you can't see it, but there's a display where you could look through it, and there's a mirror so you could see your face as if it had tattoos and you're dressed in Ataya traditional clothing. They had more weaving procedures, how they did it step by step. Here's framing. They actually showed how they wove it and dried it out. And finished products, as well as jewelry and accessories. They also had clothes, which were on display as in look how you can make the material to weave these clothes, and they had the traditional patterns and the loom. They have an exhibit on the 3rd floor that changes. So this time we went, it was all very elaborate weaving. The previous time I went was a painter. They're all from the Ataya tribe, and they all get their work shown. This is a video, but I'm pretty sure it's not working. Oh, but I can click on it. I have it on my USB. And actually, this was really cool. Going back. This video is actually the model home. It's about a 2.5-minute long video. I guess we could watch it after the presentation. This one was in Xinbeitou. In Xinbeitou, they had the Ketagalan Cultural Center. Originally, I saw it and I was like, oh, cool, I could compare 2 tribes and how they display the 2 tribes. But unfortunately, this was a culture center that had 3 floors, and the top floors were kind of like an overview and a very like a summary of the museum. They had the clothes listed in order, kind of very like ceremonial clothes, and they just listed the tribes. They didn't say what they're for, they just listed the tribes. They listed the different types of patterns that came throughout each tribe, which was really interesting. Some of them had the 1,000, it's a diamond cut, it's a diamond pattern, it's like the 1,000 snake pattern, and several tribes have it, but they have different meanings. Like for example, one of them was for like the Taiwan who believed that their ancestor was a snake, so that's how it was incorporated. These pictures are all taken very secretively because they're guards, and you weren't supposed to take pictures, so they secretively took pictures of this place when they weren't looking. But there was an arc, and pretty much on each side of the arc they would have a tribe and a TV screen that showed a ceremonial dance or ritual. But a lot of the TVs are broken for some reason. All the tribes on the other floors are displayed together. You have all these wooden sculptures, you have a wooden bamboo drum, and then in the lobby you have this cool looking cow, which is designed, I'm guessing, in the Kitagalan manner. Oh, and then in the basement, in like the worst floor, you have the Kitagalan history, which is the only part that you could photograph. They had these weird it wasn't friendly at all because it was all in Chinese. The other floors were all bilingual in English and Chinese, but this floor was only in Chinese, so it wasn't very friendly for visitors. The natives were portrayed as these kind of cartoon beings that they probably did not resemble that much. They have these interesting boxes where you push the button and you get to hear a story in the language. Unfortunately, I didn't understand at all. And then this is like I think it was selling something, and it was like you have to put your handprint as a signature. And here we go to the next museum.
Yeah, but you didn't explain selling something and then you put your hand as a signature?
I wasn't sure because I couldn't read the Chinese very well. So that was a problem. I was
Why is
looking
that
at it
important then?
to show that when you bought it, that it was yours and that no one else could duplicate your signature.
So it's a land deed.
The land deed, okay.
And
I really couldn't read it.
And what it's about is, and sometimes it's also romanized in their language. From the Dutch, they got romanization, so they could pronounce actually what it meant in the contract. Sometimes they show the boundaries as a drawing, although it's in that description, and then you put your handprint there as your seal.
That
And
makes sense.
because they didn't have writing, and it's just like a fingerprint that's unique to the person who has agreed to put their print on the deed. When the Chinese arrived to get a piece of land from indigenous people. And usually there is some part in the contract to say that actually it's on a long-term lease, and with eventual ownership, of which in so many years they have to, when they're farming something to the indigenous people from the land, until they own it completely.
To be honest, this was my least favorite museum. It didn't really go in depth, and it really skimmed a lot of the surface, and I didn't care for the fact that the top 2 floors had translation, and then the bottom floor, which had the most, signature thing that this culture center could bring, wasn't translated, and therefore was not very friendly.
And did you tell the people there about all this?
No, but they did talk to us, and they claimed that she was a model. They were like, Laura looks like a model. Oh my goodness, beautiful.
Yeah. So there,
They didn't really talk about it.
as you give your input, and this is a cultural center,
Yeah.
and it's more for the activities of the people. Yeah, for them to go and to, so they have dances. I've gone to their dances there. And
But they didn't have an open auditorium where we visited.
on different floors, they have different spaces for people. That's why it's mostly open like that, open space.
Yeah, they did have an area that looked like a slight audience, but nothing was going on at the time. I couldn't take pictures because the lady was there.
And for that, they keep it. I don't know why it's in such a big building.
I think the rest of it's research, and the 6th floor is a library, but you need special permissions to access it.
And also their material culture has practically disappeared. And so there's very little evidence, although there are some people, or the descendants of the local inhabitants who live there. And they did not live in that particular valley by the springs because they thought it was inhabited by spirits, and therefore they needed to employ a witch there to commune with those spirits and keep them at bay.
But what also is really cool is Patrick went to the archaeology museum. It turns out they're descendants of this.
Right, yes.
So, that's right.
Okay, so I went to the Shisanhang Museum up in Bali. And it takes quite some time to get there. You have to go to, either you go to Xindian and you take the ferry to the other side of the river. Oh yeah, sorry. You take the ferry to the other side of the river, and then you take a bus to the museum.
Well, you can go there by boat from Xindian. That's a long route.
Or you go to Guangdu, which is where I went, and you take a bus straight to the museum, but it takes...
You take the MRT to Guangdu and take the bus?
Yeah.
There's a designated bus.
It's like half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bus takes half an hour, and it takes quite a while to get to Guangdu as well. So this museum is, a little bit different from the other ones because it's...
So what is the first difference?
The first difference is that this is an museum for archaeology. This is an archaeological site.
Okay, so it's an on-site museum, but also it's a county museum.
Okay.
It's a government sponsored.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just as most archaeological sites, this was discovered by accident, and it was discovered in 1955 by an Air Force colonel that was flying, and he noticed that there was a lot of magnetic interference with his dials and stuff, and they thought that
compass.
Oh, compass, yes. And they thought that there must be a large iron deposit there, so they started looking for it, and instead they found a lot of old artifacts and stuff, and that's when they started to excavate this place for those artifacts. And so
when looking for iron, actually it's iron in the sand. It's iron sand. It's a natural deposit of iron.
yes. So this place was called Shisanhang, and that's why later they started to call the artifacts, the people's, how do you say that?
So what does that mean? Shisanhong.
Shisanhang
Yeah.
means 13.
It's the 13th trading post.
Yes,
So it was
an old trading post.
a place of trade. So it was where people dealt with the trade, the Pingpu people with visitors who came by ship and traded there at the mouth of this river.
So because this place was called Shisanhang, so they started to call the people that used to live there the Shisanhang people. And as Nicole mentioned, they're ancestors of the Katagalan people. Yes. And a lot later, in 1990, they started to build a sewage treatment plant there. And because of this, a lot of archaeologists they started a campaign to to save this because, yes, so
Why?
because it's an important archaeological site. Okay, so in 1992 they started to display some of the artifacts, but the official opening wasn't until 2003. That's when the building that's still there was finished. So it's a pretty new museum, and it's won awards for its architecture. I'm going to show you pictures of the museum. Talk about it. And these are, according to their website, their official objectives. And you can just read that, and their strategies to achieve these objectives. Yes. Okay, so this museum is it's pretty cool. It's as you can see, pretty big, and it's made out of 3 main buildings. So you can't see it really well here, but remember the part on the left there. You see it from another angle. This is the part that we just saw on the left. So that's one part. Then there's the middle part, the slanted big pillar, and then there's this part. So
Okay, so can you describe those 3 parts?
So these 3 parts supposed to be this part over here is supposed to look sort of like a wave, and they say that this part where the stair goes up is supposed to look like a whale's back, and the part in the middle is supposed to be, because it kind of looks like a structure that's what's it called falling or decaying, not decaying. Anyway, it's falling. So that part's supposed to symbolize the old Shisanhan people and their old things and how, yeah, that old stuff. Sorry, I can't explain it earlier. And the right part is supposed to symbolize a mountain. So you have those 3 parts.
It's a slot that will show you the mountain.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, you go on. You'll see.
Okay, so
Wow.
when you get inside, just to the left, they have an auditorium where you can go and sit and see a short video. It's about 8 minutes long, where they very simply introduce the museum and its history. It's pretty much just what I said in the beginning, and not much more, but they show you a lot more footage of it. And then what they had now, this is inside of that wave that we saw. They have an exhibition that they change a lot. And right now they have one on the city people, which is very smart, I think, because of a lot of people have probably seen the movie, so they get there with some knowledge and some idea of what they're looking for already. So it looks like this. There's a lot of pictures from the movie, and then they have these, I'm pretty sure, were replicas, because they didn't look that old actually, and looked kind of plasticky. So yeah, I'm guessing they're replicas from the movie. So they had this area here, in the city people, and they talk about the story behind the Usha incident, and they explain it, and they show different things. I didn't really understand if all of it was from the city, but it was all in the same area, but it didn't really explain very well if it all was connected or not. And as Laura talked about, they had music instruments, and you could actually play them, which was kind of fun. And they also had, if you see those, these small like pods playing music by Aboriginal artists. And they also had some photos of facial tattoos. And also they had an area where they explained the importance of that with their religion. Is this? Yes. Yes. And just as in the other museums, they had a lot of knives and pots and old animal bones and stuff. And what I hadn't seen in other museums that they had here was they had a lot of books that you could just go and read. And they had this is like a what are they called? Graphic novel, maybe?
Graphic novel.
Of the City Ballet story. So they had a lot of books just on a wall there that you can go and just sit and read. And they also had a place for kids where kids could learn stuff, but they were having a class there, so I didn't go in. But I've actually been to this museum once before, a long time ago, and I've been in there, and they had me do, I made a purple pig soap. That didn't have anything really to do with the museum, but that's what they had me do in there. So if you keep walking, you're going to get to this. This is in the slanted part that we saw in the beginning, the sort of slanted pillar. And they have models showing models of the excavation site and how it looks. And this is, I don't know if you can tell, but it's pretty big. All of the models are pretty much life-size. And it's really cool because I've never really seen in a museum or like actual archaeological work. And it's pretty interesting to see how they do it. And here's another example, and you can see how they do the excavation in small squares. And they talk about it more on the sign here. You can read about how they do that, and also they point out some of the tools that they use, that the models have in their hands and stuff, and some of the model artifacts that they uncovered. They had an Ocken, I can't pronounce that. They had like a small theater there that played, where they had 3 screens at once. And they had one was in English and one in Chinese and one in Japanese, and I found it kind of confusing. But I don't know if they changed the movie that was played inside. But when I saw this, it was just a general movie of the area, and the history of the area around Dangshui. And then they have a part that's not changing. It's called Rescuing Shisanhang. That's about this particular archaeological site. And it looks kind of like this. And my picture of that didn't come out very well, but here. There's the floor is, they have a glass floor, and they have like a mock-up excavation site underneath, so you can see and stand there and pretend that you're one of the archaeologists. And they had this showing the different types of soil that they have. And this is my favorite part of this museum, actually. This is, they have a room that's a little bit bigger than this room that you can stand in, and it's dark. And they have yeah, they have spotlights lighting different areas of the room one by one, and then they have a narrator explaining what's going on there. So it's a mixture between the walls are painted like this, and then there is also again life-size models of doing various things.
This is called illustrated diorama. It's in the round and in 3D. And the spotlight will give the story featured according to the narration. And so what are they doing here? and this aspect of the story.
Here they're trading with Chinese mainlanders, if I remember the story right, on the beach. And
So at what time period is this?
I would. Oh, I can't remember. I remember the first things they found were later. I have some pictures of they found coins and stuff from the Tang Dynasty, the Chinese Tang Dynasty. So it might be around that era, maybe.
That's correct. Okay.
Yes.
So behind this is the last of the Neolithic into the historic age, into the Metal Age, right? And behind this site in the hills is the Da Pen Kun site that was the oldest site, Neolithic site, that goes back 6,500 years. And this a transaction that you see is happening like 1,200 years ago. So we got from 6,500 years to 1,200 years in this area between these two sites, and where this museum is located on the beach, Neolithic culture transforming into the Metal Age.
Yes. And here you have someone on the beach. So this is a model in front of the painted wall. A model of a guy picking, getting seashell or clams. Here more models, just talking. And here you have they're making pots. And here's a painting of a burial. So I'm guessing, because usually they would bury people in their house, right? So I'm guessing this, or would they actually build a house on top of? Yeah, okay.
They're showing that that this culture actually did not have in-house burial.
Mm. Yes. So after that you come out here, and here they have along the wall you have a lot of artifacts that they've uncovered, and in the middle you have also a model of how the excavation site used to look. So here is some of just a lot of different types of artifacts, a lot of jewelry and stuff, and here they also had, no, not coins. And this is from what we saw in the painting earlier, how they used to bury the, you can see from the position that the skeleton is in, that it's a buried body. Yes, a mother and a daughter. At least that's what they said. And here's just a couple of figurines showing how they used to make clay pots and stuff. So you have up there in the corner, it's the first step, and then over there is the second, third, fourth, fifth. And here are some of the clay pots that they've uncovered. And this part was really interesting. They had a part showing how they sort of reconstruct faces from bones and stuff that they found. Right. So they show the progress of how they found maybe a head, and then how they do the mold and stuff, and they gradually make it into a human-like face. And it's not, it doesn't have to be accurate, but it's a possible aesthetic look that they might have had. And in the background, they also had a video showing how they do all of this, which was very interesting. And this is inside the that slanted pillar. It's a pretty tall building, and you just go up, and you can look down on the the excavation site that we saw in the beginning. And then after that, you come out from the part that's shaped like.
But you didn't show the slot.
You mean the mountain?
Yeah.
Oh, is that a famous
That,
part of it?
that is between two slabs of concrete. They go
Yes.
up, and you go right up to the top. And there's an observation there. And you look right down through the slot, and it shows the top end and the earliest Neolithic site on the hill,
Yes.
on the mountain behind. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have a picture. So, I don't know if anyone else has been to this museum, but this museum is my favorite of the museums that we went to. Just because, if you're like me, I don't particularly enjoy watching old artifacts, which is kind of why you go to a museum, I guess. But I like a lot more to see reenactments of how things used to be, because maybe I don't have enough of an imagination, but it just it connects. For me, it has more of a connection to the past. And this place is very, very hands-on, and there's a lot of really hands-on, and you can do a lot of things and see a lot of videos, and they have a lot of models of old things and reenactments of.
Are there
how life
museums
used to be.
like this in Sweden?
I haven't been to many museums in Sweden. I've only been to the most famous one, the Vasa Museum, where they have an entire ship that's about 400
Vasa?
years. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool, just because the entire ship is there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, still there.
I have to show you 2 videos that weren't working. Is that okay?
Yeah.
It's really cool because I think of the Empire Museum, that was the most interesting thing, because one of them is actually a hologram
Sit down.
where you can watch the video of certain ceremonies, and I taped one of them. And the other one is actually a room where they also do spotlight, and she talks about what part of the room is used for what and what traditions they have, which is really cool. Hold on. It's here, right?
Yeah, the hologram is really interesting.
Down. Oh, okay. Okay, so the first one, 68 is the hologram, which is really cool. Oh, you probably won't be able to hear it very well.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, this is the room. This was the room. It's really cool. They show the stones. This is the bed. Can you hear it? So everyone sleeps there. Sorry, it's a little shaky. It's my hand. Everyone sleeps there with their family. This area is actually a bench with storage underneath it, but otherwise it was used for putting things on top of as well. It was a very empty room. Something about weaving here, but it was just a blank wall, which I didn't really understand. A weaving platform. I think it's that thing. I was just looking at the corner because I couldn't see. Sorry, guys. This is my favorite. Not this one. This is the cool part because each stone represents an ancestor, and every time somebody dies, it represents family. So they have to replace the stones every time someone passes away. And they keep the yams on top of it. They're not little stones, those are yams. Okay, it's almost done. Well, yeah, so this part represents family, and it's really important. The stones, each of them represent a person. And, yeah. Oh, his phone. Okay. And the hologram thing was also really cool.
You need sound? You want to have a speaker?
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's a short little thing. So this is the ceremony. It's really cool because the whole backdrop is actually a model and they have a hologram. Sorry, it was announcing that I was closing the museum. So kind of noisy. This is the harvest ritual, the ceremony they do. And that's the shaman.
Which tribe is it?
This is the Ataya. This is the Wulai tribe. It was really cool. I really liked the whole. And they sing and they have Chinese subtitles of what he's singing about.
To see this in 3D and the model is really cool.
Yeah.
I've never seen it before.
It's just, they have a marriage ritual, a birthing ritual, I think, a harvest one, and they have about like 5 or 6 ceremonies that you could press, and they all sing for a while and show you what they do. It's really interesting.
And they're walking around inside the model,
Yeah.
and it's all in 3D, and you see the back of them, in front of them. It's not like a movie. It's really
That
a
was
3D presentation.